Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our New York Islanders franchise mode here in NHL 25. So in last episode, if you did not catch it, we had free agency and started up the season simulation, and so far our team has been kind of a bit strange and uncharacteristic in a way as well, because we're obviously expecting to get off to a good start considering this team has been to the conference finals so many years consecutively, went to the cup finals last year. Well, this year we started off with a 19-18-4 record at the halfway point to the season, which is kind of strange. It does have us only 2 points back of a wild card spot, so we are still in the playoff hunt. But it was a really bad start to the season. It is improving though, because in the last 10 games you get see we're 7-2-1, so maybe there's a chance that this team is starting to find its game a bit, which I kind of anticipate because we do have a really good roster on paper, so there's no reason why we should not make the playoffs with this type of rosters. So hoping that obviously this team continues to find itself in this episode, and then obviously we could maybe make some good additions at the trade deadline in next episode potentially. So obviously it depends on, I guess, how we simulate through the rest of this. But there is some guys like complaining a little bit about ice time and stuff like that, but it isn't the worst in spins. So yeah, just hoping that obviously we continue doing what we're doing lately and find a way to get into a playoff spot, hopefully in the next 2 episodes. So there's that. Also, you can see how bad our stats have been. Basically, you can see we're 24th in goals for, so we're not scoring a ton of goals. Literally everybody on this team is below point per game. However, we do have solid depth scoring, I would say, at least. In goals against per game, we are 17th, and then we can see our special teams are also pretty bad. 24th on the power play, 22nd on the penalty kill. So a lot of things need to improve, but this team is still hanging around playoff spots. So I think despite us being as bad as we've been, I think maybe this is just the sim engine trying to limit us during the regular season, and then who knows, maybe we'll go on a heater once we actually get to the postseason. So hoping that's kind of the case. But anyways, before we continue simulating some more, maybe making some line adjustments accordingly, let's get in your guys' comments and see what you guys have to say about last episode, and then we'll get into simulating more and seeing if this team could start to find its legs a bit. So the first and only comment is from Michael Dose, who says, this is the year the Islanders win the cup, especially with money to spend at the deadline. And yeah, I kind of feel like it could be the year too, just based on how we're simulating right now. Obviously, we could make the playoffs potentially just barely, and it'd be a first round exit still too, so we got to be aware about that. But I do feel like this year is a little bit different just because our team's completely under simulating, and then maybe the playoffs will start to find itself quite a bit. But we did already make some line adjustments in last episode. There is currently an injury, as you saw when we were showing you guys the lines, to Ragnarsson. So Ragnarsson is currently out at the moment, but he will be back, I think, relatively soon. Aside from that, we did make some sort of adjustment to this top 6. Basically, Ragnarsson will be playing on the second line next to Ashton and Kazanov. Originally, it was Lehman down there, so we just are deciding to kind of flip things around a bit and seeing if that works out better or not. Also, some young guys like Popov have done well for the team so far, so excited to see how those young guys continue to go. Hopefully, we could get guys like Murray Hamilton to maybe provide a little bit more offense. I mean, 16 points as a third liner is okay. Obviously, he's not going to be as good as when Ashton was down there, because when Ashton was down there, he's like a 50-point guy. But I do expect this line to hopefully develop a decent amount of offense. Like, Dempsey kind of probably should be scoring more goals right now than he currently is. So hopefully he could start to score a little bit more. Last year, he hit 29 goals. This year, he's not on pace to hit that, I don't think, because obviously he's missed a few games due to injury. But hopefully he could find himself a bit. And then also guys like Abney, hopefully he could provide a little bit more offense. I don't expect him to really put up a lot of offense because he's an enforcer, but when he's in the AHL, this guy's actually a decent point producer. Actually, in the first 6 games, he was a decent point producer. Last year, he was not so much, so maybe not a good point producer in any stretch, but he is very physical. He's already had some fights in his career, I think. So will be interesting to see how many penalty minutes he finishes off with at the end of his rookie season. But yeah, definitely a physical player, something that we've never really had in our lineup before, so that's kind of interesting. And then defensively, the one player that was losing a little bit of morale is Lindsay. He is listed as a top 4 playing top 6 minutes. And then the other one losing morale a bit is Don Savage. So maybe there's a chance we make some sort of a defensive change during the season. But right now, we'll probably just run it the same. And we'll see what we end up doing when we get to the deadline for the next episode. Also, hopefully the goaltending gets a little bit better. As you can see, Komatov's been better right now than Nicholas. Obviously, Nicholas was kind of the better goalie in the playoffs for the most part. Komatov had some really good games though too. So I'm still really not too sure on who I want to be as that number one guy for us in the next few years, because obviously we don't have a lot of years left of this franchise mode, but we probably have to prioritize one of the two of them, because having two starting goalies in net didn't really work out well for us when we had Solovyov, and who was the backup behind him? There was somebody that we had behind him anyways that was a good overall as well. Or actually, maybe I'm thinking of my Albuquerque series. Yeah, maybe I'm thinking about my Albuquerque series. Like, when I had, like, Gionta and Malkin in that series back-to-back, I had to make a decision on one of the two of them. So maybe that we are going to have to run into a decision like this in this series as well. So with that said, I think we're ready to continue to simulate and see how our team's doing. I actually did want to take a quick look, though, and see how Giordano's doing in Winnipeg, because he did score his first goal as a Jet against us, which is kind of hilarious in last episode. He's currently playing on the top line with Jacob Leeson, who, didn't he used to play with us? Yeah, he did. I almost forgot about that. That's actually kind of sick. All right. So it's Leeson, Giordano, and some guy named Malmavara, but yeah, Leeson used to play with us as well. Maybe we should have given this guy a longer time with us. He had 80 points last year, and now he's got a really good top-line center next to him, obviously, in Gio. And Gio right now has 37 points in 44 games, so he's not slowing down too much, but he's definitely not on pace for as much points, I think, as last year, potentially. Maybe around the same amount of points. Tough to say, but obviously he makes his living kind of in the playoffs, so that is a little bit of a weak Jets team, though, after that top line, so I'm not too sure if they're actually going to be a playoff team or not, but still kind of funny to see two former players both playing on the same line again. Because I think probably at one point they would both have been teammates on the same line in our lineup, potentially. Like, Leeson used to be on the third line a lot, so Giordano probably was in that spot at one point too, if I'm not mistaken. But anyways, let's continue to simulate. We'll go to the end of January, see if our team continues to find its game. Like I said, we've been better as of late. Hopefully, we could kind of find our legs and get ourselves a really good record, so we could actually make sure that we clinch a playoff spot. Like, I don't really want to clinch the playoff spot on the last day of the season, because if we somehow miss the playoffs, it would be detrimental. But let's go to the end of the month and see if we could do good in these next, how many games? 8 games. And if we can, this team should be a playoff team, probably. We do beat Edmonton 5-1 there, as Ragnarsson has returned, so that's great news, of course. Ragnarsson's a big piece of this team, so we'll take out Jeffrey Winchester, and we'll throw in Ragnarsson back in this spot. He's not going to be playing on that second line. Hopefully, he could get guys like Ashton and Kazanov doing a little bit better. Game against Florida coming up is going to be a 3-2 overtime win. Yeah, we're definitely starting to find our legs, I think. There's a 4-3 shootout win over Washington. 3-1 loss to Philadelphia, but I think they're an okay team. Seattle is a loss as well. That's not great. Boston's a loss. Oh boy, now we're on a 3-game losing streak, but then we ended against the Flyers. We're still a little bit inconsistent, but maybe this is what we kind of need. Anaheim is a loss as well. So 23, 22, and 4. We do have a lot more regulation losses than we probably should at this point. We are currently still second last in the Metropolitan Division, which is actually kind of insane. But we're only 6 points back of that wildcard spot, which is owned by the Philadelphia Flyers at the moment. So we got to start winning games really badly. Like, if we could win 10 games in a row, that would help out a lot. Obviously, I don't know if this team has it in them, but we definitely need to find ways to win these games coming up, because we definitely could be a team that gets all of a sudden on a hot streak and gets into the playoffs, but I'm also kind of skeptical with how weird this season has been. Like, last year, obviously getting to the Cup Finals, you think this team would have been off to a better start. We are 28th in goals for, so our goals for is absolutely atrocious, and I don't really know why. We did let go of Giordano, obviously, and stuff like that. Did letting go of Giordano make that big of a difference on this team? And then we're 10th in goals against, so our defensive play has been good. Our power play has been trash. Our penalty kill has been improving. But yeah, definitely offense seems to be the thing that we need to get going a bit, which means that might be something we target at the trade deadline, is finding another scoring forward. Like, we could hypothetically move Kazanov back to a third line type of role or something like that if we really want to, but not too sure what we would do to upgrade this offensive core that much. I mean, technically, I guess there's a bit of a weakness on some of these wingers, like on the left side maybe, but I'm not too sure if that would actually help us out a lot. I guess also Houghton's decline has helped things. Let's put Carlton maybe as a top defenseman next to Houghton, and then put Schaefer with Holmstrom. Kind of just rebalance things out a little bit. See if that helps out at all. But yeah, definitely we've been a good defensive team, like I said, but we need to find that next level in terms of scoring, because I don't know if it's just guys like Karain and Houghton, if they're just starting to dwindle a little bit offensively because they are getting old, but definitely our age is kind of catching up to us in that department. So let's continue to simulate after that little adjustment. Obviously, we're going to take it a little bit slow for the rest of this episode, probably, just because obviously we don't want to be going on a losing streak and then our team doesn't make the playoffs. Let's go replace player on that because that's just an AHL goaltender. But yeah, you can see like February 9th here. We're literally now 8 points back. We do have 2 games in hand on the Flyers. So those 2 games in hand are pretty important. So I guess we have our fate in our hands, so to speak. But the Rangers are also just above us and we're playing them today. So we got to find ways to win here soon, or else we might have to make some drastic adjustments. So let's go through 6 games here, so 2 weeks at a time. See if we could start going on a winning streak if possible. Hey, we shut out the Rangers there, so that's a good one considering they're just above us in the standings. As we do got to go down to the AHL here briefly and take out Vishnevsky. Get Barkov back in there. Perfect. And that's good. Also, Sidney Crosby's the head coach of our AHL team now, just in case you didn't remember that. 4-2 loss to San Jose. 2-1 win over Ottawa. Still a little bit inconsistent. 2-1 shootout loss. That's still a point. 7-6 regulation loss. And then a 4-0 win. Yeah, I don't like our inconsistency right now, but we are still 6 points back of a playoff spot with a game in hand, so anything could happen at this point. We are going to keep on simulating through this. I guess we're going to go through this relatively quick, but Nashville is going to be an OT win. Carolina is going to be a 9-0 win, and then we get a 4-0 win over Columbus. Our defensive play has been shining through. I mean, that game against Columbus wasn't very good, obviously. But a 2-0 win there, a 4-0 win, a 9-0 win, and a 4-0 win. So 4 shutouts in a month, which is pretty impressive defensively. So that might be what this team needs to start pushing to actually get a playoff spot. All right. So at March the 1st, we are still in second last place in our division. We do have a game in hand on the Devils. We're only 3 points back of them now. And then the Rangers are also right in between us. So yeah, we need to get that win when we do, if possible. And also the Flyers, I mean, are on 67 points, so there's definitely a little bit of a logjam between us and Philadelphia. Afterwards, it's a little bit of a gap, so maybe we end up being a wildcard team this year, but we definitely need to find a way to get that last playoff spot if possible. And it would be nice to have it kind of before the trade deadline, but obviously if we don't have it before the trade deadline, hopefully whoever we bring in at the deadline in next episode could help push us into that playoff spot. All right, let's get through these 3 games. We got Detroit, New Jersey. That game against New Jersey is pretty huge. Obviously, that could help us get that wild card spot. So let's go through these first 2 games, and then we'll go through the Washington game and be a day before the deadline, basically. Detroit's a loss. New Jersey's a loss. Oh, my God. That's 2 bad losses at this stage. And then Washington, please be a win, is a shootout loss. Oh, my God. That's going to hurt a little bit, but we are still 6 points back with 1 game in hand, so technically we could say like maybe 4 points back. But yeah, that loss against the Devils, if we miss the playoffs, just know that's the reason why that loss. But we do have a game against them coming up too after the deadline, so that's also going to be a massive game on the road in New Jersey. So anyways, 29, 26, and 6 to end this episode, because I do not think we're going to do the trade deadline in this episode unless I could already figure out a deal, but I'm not too sure if there's going to be one. But let's see what our stats are looking like right now. Now we are 28th still in goals for, so absolutely not good offensively. But look at that. We are 3rd in goals against at the moment. We are 24th on the power play and 15th on the penalty kill. Also, Nicholas has been fantastic in this episode. His stats completely changed around from an 896 save percentage, I think, to a 910. So we are definitely finding ourselves in net, but we need to find ourselves in terms of goal scoring. And I'm not too sure exactly what we need in terms of a score, but we'll definitely look at the block and all that stuff. Maybe we'll get through the rest of the season in this episode. It really just depends on what I'm seeing with this roster. But in terms of stats through 61 games, I mean, our top guys are still producing, which is good. Like, if we're looking at, like, guys like Crane's got 50 points, but he only has 18 goals, which is a little bit on the lower end side of things for him, because usually he's a 30-goal scorer, but this year he might not even hit 30. So, kind of strange. I mean, a little bit of a drop-off for him. He is 33 years old now at this point, though. And then Makinen's on 48 points, 21 goals. Lehman 44 points. Ragnarsson 43. Ashton 32. Like, our depth scoring's good, I would say, but we're just not scoring enough. And I'm not too sure what we need to bring in to start scoring for us. All right. Abney, the Enforcer's got 57 pims now. Okay. Let me actually sort something interesting. Our shots on our team. Crane and Ashton shoot a ton. Makinen shoots a decent amount, but we do not really have a ton of crazy good shooters, it seems like, just based on the shots per game. So maybe we want somebody that takes a lot of shots or something like that. A lot of volume. That might be interesting. What about defensively? Holmstrom's on 38 points. Houghton's on 37. So both these guys are still doing pretty damn good in terms of production. But obviously Houghton is taking a little bit of a step back this year. Like, he might not even hit 50 points this year, so that could be a big reason why we are taking a step back offensively. Schaefer 26, Carlton 16, Jank 7, Lindsay only 6. He is dropping off because of morale. Maybe we have to make a decision with the defensive core, but our defensive play has been so good that I want to kind of keep it together a bit. Savage there. Goaltending. Nicholas Stowe on that 910 save percentage down at 2.6 goals against. And yeah, Komatov's done really well as a backup too. So our defensive play is fantastic, but we need to find a way to get a good scorer on that's on this roster that's not on a playoff team. So maybe we're already going to look into some potential trades. So if we go to like forwards, for instance, and if we look at people who take the most shots in the league, let's take a look and see if there's anybody that's on a team that's not doing well. So there is Guerin, but obviously the Rangers are competing. Bouwmeester is on the Devils. They're competing. Michelli's on the Leafs. We don't want to bring him back necessarily. Trying to think of who would be nice to bring in. Obviously somebody with a good plus-minus is probably on a good team. So Yard takes a lot of shots. He's only a +1. But obviously the Ducks are probably contending. Actually, let's take a look at the teams that are not in a playoff picture right now, because that might make it a bit easier for us. So there is Carolina, who is below us. Let's actually go Eastern Conference too. Carolina, Boston, Tampa, Detroit. Let's take a look at their rosters for fun. Carolina, Boston, Detroit. So it's mostly the Atlantic Division to look at, I guess. But Carolina, who do they got that shoots a lot? Yashin. Signed for 6 years, no movement clause. Obviously, we can't bring him in. There's also Uriel Eriksson, I think his name is. Or Ulf Eriksson. Never mind, I thought it was Uriel Eriksson. He's a franchise player, though. Only 21 years old. There's no way they'd move him. So Carolina, Detroit, Boston, teams like that. Let's take a look at Boston. Sanders shoots a lot. He's 31 years old. Power forward. Fits our third line. Signed for 2 years. I can't take a 2-year contract that's worth that much. And then we'll take a look at Detroit. Rensfeldt. Oh, yeah, Robert Rensfeldt. I feel like I've seen this guy before. On San Jose. 1-year deal at 7.6. That is the type of player I could bring in. I have the cap space and all that. He's a right winger, which our right wing side maybe could use a guy like this. He's only an 83, though. So it's not like he's an insanely high overall player. But he's producing pretty good. Like, he's had more points than everybody else on our team right now. So, has scored 40 goals in the past. Doesn't have a lot of playoff experience. I wonder if Rensfeldt would actually fit this team well or not. He's a power forward, or a playmaker. He's not even a sniper, but he shoots the puck a lot. I'd prefer maybe to get for a sniper if possible, but Rensfeldt's kind of interesting. Who else is there? Let's take a look at who else is below us, because I feel like this is a good way of determining who we could trade for. So Tampa, Ottawa, and that's it. So let's look at Tampa and Ottawa too. See if there's anybody on there that shoots the puck a ton. That might be actually a sniper, not a playmaker. So the Ottawa Senators, let's see, based on shots. You're looking at Bill Owens, 46 points, not crazy. 25 goals, that was good. He signed for 4 years. I don't need a 4-year contract, especially when he's 32 years old. And in Tampa has Bryant Bird. 46 points, 23 goals, 230 shots, 85 overall, 27. Drafted by Tampa. 4 years left, and he's got a no movement. Well, that doesn't make it easier then. That definitely doesn't. We might have to look at some Western Conference teams then. Let's go to the West and see who is below us. Or actually, let's just go entire league and see who's below us from the West. So the Sharks are below us. The Canucks are below us. The Blackhawks. Okay, San Jose, Vancouver, and Chicago. Let's take a look at those teams too. I think this is a good way to figure out who might be trade bait for these teams. San Jose, Vancouver, and Chicago. So San Jose, if we sort by shots, we've made trades with them before. They do have Rolison. They have Moore as well, who's got 26 goals, so he might fit us a little bit better. But he is 22, so I don't think they'd want to move out from a 22-year-old. He is only signed for 1 year, but he's an RFA, so there's no way they'd move him. Rolison's older, so that would make sense for them to want to move him. He's got 5-star shooting. 5-star shooting. Does fit our second line, plays left wing and right wing, but he's making 4-year deal at 11.3. I can't have a guy on this team that's making that much from a random trade. So, yeah, Rolison's not going to be the guy, even though he would be the guy if he was on a 1-year deal and he was making less money, probably. Vancouver. What about Vancouver? Joe Scott. 87 overall at 30. He is a power forward as well. Does have 3.5-star shooting. Fits all power play lines. Signed for 3 years. No movement clause. That's not going to work. Aside from that, not a lot of crazy other shooters. There is Lane Schneider, who we used to look at from Buffalo. This guy could still be the answer, potentially. But he is making $18 million for 4 years, which is way too much money. So there's no way I'm doing that. Chicago. Does Chicago have anything? Let's see. Valak at 181 shots isn't crazy, but how is he? He's making too much money. Too much money. All right, let's look at some other teams. I think this is how we're going to figure out if there's anybody we could actually bring in. But we definitely should trade for somebody that's going to help out our offensive bits. So that's why I'm looking more towards bringing in a sniper or something like that. Utah's also below us, and that's the only team else that's below us. Everybody else might be competing kind of for playoff spots like us. So let's take a look at Utah and see if they have anything. I feel like Utah's had some good players in the series, so there could be maybe a decent player there. Yeah, there is Richie, who is that franchise guy, but he would cost us way too much. He's also a playmaker, and he is signed for 6 years and making a lot of money, which doesn't surprise me whatsoever. Everybody else takes under 100 shots less than him, so aside from Richie, there's not really a lot of good players on Utah right now, I guess. So I don't really know what we need to look at. We could, I guess, look at Calgary briefly since they're just a spot above us. They are in the West, though, too. Jalen Burkholz. Jalen Burkholz, power forward. He's a center. Fits all forward lines. 3 years left. I don't want guys with multiple years. Henricia has 31 goals so far this season, so he might be interesting. 88 overall sniper, 5-star shooting. And signed for 2 years. I don't know if I want that he's signed for 2 years. I'd have to offload some sort of a salary too. He's a really good player, it seems like, too. This is his best season, though, of his career. Probably in terms of goal scoring. He might be a really good shooter, but he doesn't score as much as you'd expect. So yeah, I'm not too sure if he's somebody I would look to bring in. I think he's a good player, but... And then there's our former guy in Ellington, who's now in Calgary. Ellington's a playmaker, making $6 million, which is not that expensive, but let's go back to the entire league for shooting and see if there's anybody crazy in shooting that maybe could be moved still. Chelly. Actually, let's go to the trading block now. See if there's any of those guys that we're looking at that are good shooters on the actual block, because maybe that might make it still a little bit easier for us to actually try and trade for somebody. But yeah, right now I'm not too sure what to make of our team. Like I said, I really like our defensive play, but I'm not too sure who we want to get rid of to basically upgrade our forward group, potentially. Is there any good snipers? Any good snipers? Janes, 1 year left, but $16 million contract. And this guy has 21 goals so far this season, so he's not a bad goal scorer by any stretch. He is a 5-star shooter. Doesn't have the best offensive awareness anymore, but he's not a crazy producer. So I don't know really why he got paid as much money as he did, but I would not take that on for the year. Unless I got them to retain half, I wouldn't even be able to afford that type of money. So don't think we could bring him in. Aside from that, is there any other crazy snipers that could be moved out from on other teams? Because I think that's what we need to find. And if we can't find it, I don't really know exactly how we make our offense much better. We could always trade away a defenseman to get one of these forwards if we want to, because the defense is kind of complaining about ice time, but our defensive play has been good so far. Copeland signed for way too many years. I'd prefer somebody on an expiring deal. Coletta signed for 2 years, which isn't as bad. He is a good point producer, but I don't know. AJ Coletta, huh? What else we got here? Anything interesting? A lot of prospects on the block, which is not going to help us at this stage, because we're trying to win a Stanley Cup here this season. I mean, we could just continue with the team that we have and just see if they somehow find a way into the postseason, because we're right there, but our offensive play hasn't been. So are we still going to be a team that loses randomly 3 games in a row, or are we going to just win 10 plus games and make it into a postseason spot? Like, I don't want to end up missing accidentally, especially at this point in the franchise mode. Rangers just have 1 defenseman on the block, but we don't really need a DFD, especially with us being a good defensive team. I'm not really seeing a ton on this block. There is Kerslake, but signed for 2 years. 19 goals. He's actually a pretty solid scorer for his age. He could end up retiring soon, but that's a decent scoring option. But I don't think he's going to be the one that sets this role on fire, to be honest. Yeah, I don't think he's a huge upgrade really from anybody on our team. Pittsburgh, nothing there. San Jose, our former goalie Solovyov's on the block. He's now an exact fringe starter, so this could be the last year you see Alexander Solovyov in the NHL. He's having an okay time and save percentage, but obviously the goals against is high because the Sharks are still dog shit, so I feel bad that Solovyov signed there in the offseason. Obviously the 2 Vezinas in his career, though. There's none of his teammates really that are that interesting. Irwin's only a 79. He wouldn't really help out us at all in terms of depth. Alright, this one might be interesting. How good is Belchet's doing in Seattle? 22 goals, first line forward. He is 35 years old at this point. But Belchet's is a 5-star shooter. And could fit in our top 6. He is a left winger. Belchet's could be the guy, but I don't know if we're on his trade list. That's the only thing that sucks. He's on a modified no trade. So yeah, I don't know if we could bring in Belchet's. We'll look and see if we could bring in somebody like him, maybe. Because maybe we upgrade our top 6 a bit. Maybe we move like Kazanov back down to the 3rd line. We would have to move Popov to the 4th line, though. That's the only thing, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So I don't really know exactly, but Belchet's could be an option. Aside from that, they have some defensemen on the block. I don't think these guys are going to really help us much offensively, so don't even going to look at them really. St. Louis, just prospects. Tampa, Montador, Toronto has a lot of players on the block, including Michelli, who used to play with us, but that cap hits too much for 3 years. If he was on a 1-year expiring deal, that would be okay maybe, but damn. Utah, nothing there. Vancouver, nothing there. And then Vegas, nothing there. Damn, none of these teams have crazy good players on the block. Burkle's a playmaker. I mean, Gunderson is a power forward, but 2 years left. 19 goals this season. How has he been in the past? Not a crazy goal scorer. He's only hit 20 goals like a couple times. Not a lot of playoff experience either. I don't know about Gunderson. Yeah, he's probably not that great. And then Winnipeg has Niskala, who's only an 80 overall. Only 6 goals this season. Goddamn, but he's not getting a lot of ice time. So the most intriguing player on the block has to be Belchetz in Seattle. But I don't know if we're on his trade list. Like, if we go to proposed trade right now, would it actually allow me to trade for him? Because he would be the one player that I would maybe look into potentially trading for. Now, Seattle isn't a playoff spot right now, I think, or close to a playoff spot. But they want to offload him, so I guess it would make sense. But if we go to Belchetz, he would come here. Okay, so he would be willing to come to the Islanders. He would be willing to come here. And like I said, he is a proven goal scorer, has a lot of goals in his career, 403. Used to be a much, much better player way back in the day, but still could provide offense. Is more a bit physical of a power forward, but also, like I said, he had scored 43 goals a couple times in his career. And he's only signed for 1 year. In terms of his salary cap, he's making 10.645. Would we have to offload salary to get him? Probably. But, so, if we bring in Belchetz for this top 6, he's a left winger, so he'd be behind Crane, basically. Let's take a look and see where we could fit him into our lineup and who we'd have to maybe move out in order to actually get him in our lineup. So if we go to Edit Lines here, if we brought in Belchetz, you can see we'd have to move Kazanov probably to the third line. Because Ragnarsson's going to be probably on this side still. Lehman's still probably going to be on this side. So probably Kazanov gets dumped down. If Kazanov gets dumped down, Popov has to get dumped down, or Dempsey has to get dumped down. If Dempsey gets dumped down, or Popov gets dumped down, Abney has to get scratched, which isn't terrible. But having a guy that's listed as a third line scoring forward on the fourth line, or another guy that's listed as a third line scoring forward on the fourth line, not ideal. Having a guy listed as a second liner on the third line, not ideal. Is it the type of deal to make or not? Like, would Belchetz help us score more goals? Probably. Would he make us worse defensively? I'm not too sure. Because we would be playing, like, potentially a sniper on the fourth line instead of an enforcer. I don't know. If we are to make a trade for this guy, we might have to move on from, like, say, Dempsey or somebody like that in order to get this deal to work. Because Kazanov could be moved down to the third line right wing next to Popov and Hamilton. If we moved on from Dempsey, it might work, but I'm not too sure if I'm sold on moving on from Dempsey yet. He was really good last year for us in the playoffs, so... We could always just rework our lines as well and see if we could find things to get our offense going, but obviously our offense has been the main problem so far this season. But we could always just try and run with this still for the rest of the season and not make any trades. But Belchetz is definitely the best option if we do want to upgrade our forward group a bit. In the AHL, is there anybody worth calling up yet? No, not yet. See, another thing about bringing in Belchetz is we do have guys we could promote to give a chance to. Trotter's now listed as a third-line checking forward. He was a depth forward at the start of the season. He played 8 games for us, didn't have a single point, but he is ready for the NHL now. And he is also a sniper with 4-star shooting, so we could always try and make an adjustment where we bring in somebody from the system instead. So we bring them, say, Trotter from the AHL, and then maybe we end up trading away somebody else. I don't know who. Maybe we use Russell as a depth forward instead if we called up him. And then we could always try and move somebody else to being a center as well on this team. Like, there is options potentially. But I'm not too sure how we can make this team better offensively without either promoting, like I said, promoting this youngster in Trotter or making a trade for Belchetz. And if we promote Trotter, somebody on this forward group needs to be scratched. And it's probably the enforcer, Abney. But then somebody would have to get sent down, which might end up being Hornqvist or something like that. So that's probably our options. I just not too sure what we need to do with that. So there's that. I don't think we'll actually simulate through the rest of the season in this episode, but us and Buffalo apparently are actually pretty similar teams right now. So, and Buffalo's obviously got a much better record. So I still feel like this team's going to turn a page randomly and start winning like 10 plus games in a row. Because you look at us in Buffalo, We're both very similar teams, and to the fact that we're both bad offensively but good defensively, yet Buffalo's in a playoff spot, so definitely something could change completely in the next bit of the season. But like I said, we're only 6 points back at the Devils. We do have a game in hand. Rangers are also on that exact same point total. So I definitely still think we could come back. It's just obviously going to take a lot of work. And if we bring in a good goal scorer or calls up somebody, that could definitely help things. It also might not help things at all. So we might just want to maintain this roster and see what happens. Because if we miss the playoffs and we got rid of our first round pick, it absolutely suck. If we go to fine trade right now, the cost for somebody like Belchetz would probably be, I don't really know what it would be, but he's got good value. It would really cost us Govin Lindsay, which, I mean, Lindsay is tradable potentially if we wanted to get him more ice time somewhere else. A second round pick in Lindsay would work as well, and then we could always get Savage into the lineup and find another defenseman. That could honestly be a play, but then we'd have too many forwards almost for Belchetz to be playing, so we'd have to find somebody on the forward group to move out from. There's also Koivunen and Trotter. Obviously, Trotter I'm not moving on from. Abney in a second. I mean, that would get rid of the roster forward, who is the enforcer on that fourth line. So maybe that's a deal that we could do, is Abney in that second rounder. And then there's also Popov in a second rounder, which would also take away that roster spot. So probably one of these two deals would make the most sense for us to do if we wanted to get rid of a roster player and upgrade our forward group. But also, I'm not too sure if it's going to improve us so drastically that we actually go far in the playoffs or not. So we honestly might just maintain. We might promote. We might just keep the same and see what happens. We might trade for Belchetz. Who knows? But we definitely have some tough decisions, I think, ahead. Who's a pending free agent on this team next this offseason again? Was it? I think it was a bunch of RFAs, if I remember right. I just want to make sure I know our salary cap stuff to deal with this offseason. So yeah, it's mostly a bunch of RFAs. So at least it's not that huge of an issue, because we're not going to have like a lot of guys signed into next season already. But yeah, we don't want to bring in somebody on a multiple year deal. Lindsay, like I said, is a pending RFA too. So maybe we do move on from somebody like that. But moving on from Abney or say Popov instead might make the most sense, because eventually we're not going to be able to afford a lot of those RFAs, because they are all going to get quite costly, my guess. So not too sure exactly what we're going to do, but we're definitely going to have to make a tough decision or two. Anything else I want to take a look at before we end this episode? Let me actually just briefly take a look at what this draft class is looking like right now. There's a franchise level power forward going first overall. I mean, that would help our offense too, but obviously we want to make the playoffs. But shout out to Lance Smits, who's like Owen Nolan, the first overall pick this year. Casey Gomez. Damn. Is there any good steals that I could already pin for the few episodes from now? Just because I'd like to pin those guys. A highly goalie, let's pin this dude. I mean, he is 19, but still, let's pin some people. Just so we have some people on board maybe for the offseason. Looks like there's going to be a good chunk of good goalies in this draft class, but obviously none of them are going to develop before the series ends probably. Maybe a lowly defenseman and Carson Smith 1 year out. That looks fantastic. That would be a nice late first round pick. Maybe a lowly enforcer and Reinhardt. If that guy's a lonely enforcer, that'd be pretty friggin' sick. I don't think he will be, but you never know. And then Bruillard will pin you as well, since you're a gem, I guess. Alright. Well, anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of our New York Islanders franchise mode. So in next episode, we'll take it to the trade deadline. We'll see if we end up making any upgrades, or if we just decide to keep it safe and keep with the current roster. Maybe just some line adjustments will help the offense start flowing a little bit better. But obviously our goal scoring ability has been absolutely atrocious, but I've been really liking how we've been playing defensively and in net. So as long as we could start finding ways to score maybe a little bit more goals, I think we could start winning more games, and we could also start making it into the playoffs. So let me know down below, and I'll see you guys next time.